The Sportsman's Lodge Motel, sounds kind of like a peaceful getaway, right? But for a 31-year-old woman named Aileen Seiden, room 15 at this motel turned into a scene of unimaginable horror.
Yeah.
So we're diving into Aileen Seiden's case today, and we have her autopsy reports, interviews with investigators, and even a phone call Aileen made to her best friend just days before her death.
Wow.
It's
That's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot to unpack, so let's try to make sense of it all.
Yeah, and I think what gets me first is just how brutal it was. This wasn't just a murder. This was an attack filled with rage.
Right.
Aileen was found miles away, like in a ditch off Highway 98.
Wow.
And her body was just covered with cuts and bruises, wounds all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
The level of violence just screams that this was personal, don't you think? Like maybe fueled by some long-held anger or even revenge.
Yeah, the overkill aspect is really disturbing. Like, what could possibly push someone to do something like that?
Right.
Was it a crime of passion, or was it meticulously planned?
Well, that's where the evidence from Room 15 comes in. The furniture's all overturned, there's linens missing, and that mattress soaked in blood.
Yeah.
It paints a really chaotic picture.
It does.
Suggests a huge struggle took place there.
For sure.
But here's the thing, though. Despite all that chaos, investigators think Aileen was probably killed somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah, and then her body was moved to that location.
So the crime scene might not even be the crime scene.
Exactly. It's another layer to this whole thing.
It really complicates things.
Yeah, it makes you think about the killer's plan.
Yeah.
Were they trying to mislead investigators, or was moving the body just like a logistical thing?
Yeah.
Like they had to.
Had to get rid of her.
Yeah, and where was she actually killed? Was it somewhere important to her or to the killer?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And then there's that phone call Aileen had with her best friend.
Right.
She tells her friend that she's scared for her life and says, "My sister's involved and I don't know what's happening."
Ooh, that sentence just opens up so many questions.
It does. It's like chills just thinking about it.
Like, what does involved even mean?
Right.
Was the sister part of the crime, or was she forced into it somehow? Or maybe Aileen just saw her sister as a threat when she was actually trying to help.
That's possible.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't.
But the fact that Aileen called her friend, it means she really trusted her and was desperate.
Absolutely. And her friend even told her to get out of the situation, but Aileen just says, "I can't."
Wow.
What could make escape seem so impossible? Like, was someone controlling her? Was it physical, mental?
That's the biggest mystery here, right? If we look at the psychology of captivity, it goes way beyond just being physically trapped.
Right.
Threats, manipulation, creating the sense of dependence, all of that can keep someone from leaving.
So even though Aileen wasn't found at the motel, we know room 15 was a big part of this whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But we still don't know exactly what happened there. Was she held captive there? Was it a staging ground for something even worse?
It's like we have these pieces, glimpses into Aileen's last days.
Yeah.
But we don't have the whole picture.
It's like a puzzle missing pieces.
Yeah, the violence, the phone call, the mystery surrounding room 15, it's all part of this big, scary puzzle.
Right. And we need to figure out who Aileen was and who she might have been involved with to try to get to the truth behind this mystery of room 15.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about how brutal this crime was and how weird it is that the motel and where they found Aileen's body are totally different places.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the killer was trying to throw everyone off, make it harder to figure out what really happened.
Right, and that's something you often see with criminals who are really organized.
Right.
They plan everything out carefully, trying to control how things look and make sure nobody suspects them.
So do you think the killer chose room 15 for a specific reason, or was it just some random place they picked to hide out in for a bit?
That's a good question. There's this theory in criminology called the least effort principle. Basically, it says that criminals, especially if they're acting on impulse, usually go for places that are easy to get to and don't take much work.
Makes sense.
So the motel being close to the highway and not really standing out could have been why they picked it.
But the killer took the time to move Aileen's body, though, right?
Yeah,
That doesn't sound like something you do if you're just trying to be quick and easy.
exactly. That's what's so strange about this case. We see signs of both impulsive behavior and careful planning. It's a real head-scratcher.
Definitely. And it makes me think back to what Aileen said about her sister. "My sister's involved and I don't know what's happening."
Right, that phone call still gives me chills, even just reading the transcript.
Me too.
It's like a cry for help, but we can't quite understand what she's trying to say.
And when she says involved, what does that even mean?
I know, right?
Hmm.
Could mean so many things. Was the sister actually part of the murder?
Yeah.
Was she forced to help somehow? Or maybe Aileen was just scared and saw her sister as a threat even though she wasn't?
It's hard to know without more information about their relationship.
Exactly. Were they close? Did they have problems? Were there any secrets between them that might explain what happened?
Those are things investigators would need to look into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The sister might hold the key to solving this mystery.
You think so?
It's possible maybe she saw something important or knows more than she's letting on. We can't rule anything out.
It's like we're trying to find our way out of a maze, but we're blindfolded.
Right. We need more clues to point us in the right direction.
And what about where they found Aileen's body? A ditch off Highway 98.
Yeah, that's not exactly a place you'd expect a planned murder to happen.
Feels more like they were just dumping her body, trying to hide the evidence.
Exactly. And that tells us something about how the killer was thinking.
Like what?
Did they know the area well?
Hmm.
Did they pick that spot because it was isolated and they thought nobody would find her?
Could be.
Or was it just a place they could get to quickly and easily? We need to consider all the angles.
It's like they were playing this twisted game, trying to stay one step ahead of the police.
And that's why forensic science is so important in cases like this.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff like DNA and fingerprints.
Exactly. Every piece of evidence, from the blood in room 15 to the tire tracks near the ditch, could be a major clue.
You never know what tiny detail might end up being the key to the whole thing.
It's true. Things like DNA analysis, fiber analysis, even soil samples, all of those can help us understand what happened and who was involved.
So even though we still have way more questions than answers right now, we're starting to get a sense of just how messed up and complicated the story is.
Yes, it's a story about violence, manipulation, and a whole web of relationships that might be the key to figuring out the truth.
Well, one thing's for sure, the mystery of Room 15 is a long way from being solved. It feels like we're dealing with two separate mysteries here, like the murder itself and then this whole elaborate cover-up.
Right.
The killer was trying to create this fake trail to throw off the investigators.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it tells us that they might be pretty experienced with crime,
Mm-hmm.
Like someone who's dealt with the police before,
Mm-hmm.
understands how investigations work and knows how to mess them up.
So maybe Aileen's sister could help us understand why the killer did what they did.
Maybe.
Like maybe she accidentally gave them information or was tricked into helping cover things up.
Yeah, that's possible. But we got to be careful about jumping to conclusions,
Right.
We need to look at her involvement with a healthy dose of skepticism, but also empathy.
True.
She could be a victim in all this too, wrapped up in a web of lies and manipulation.
That's true, but her statement, my sister's involved, it just casts this huge shadow over the whole case.
It does, and it makes us question the motive,
Right.
If the sister wasn't directly involved, why would Aileen bring her up?
Yeah, was she trying to protect someone else?
Possibly.
Or was there something going on between them, a secret maybe, that we don't know about?
Could be.
What if Aileen knew something dangerous and her sister got caught in the middle somehow?
That's definitely a possibility. We know Aileen was scared and felt trapped, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she found out something that put her in danger, and her sister got pulled into it, whether she wanted to be or not.
It's like all these secrets piled on top of each other, and each one reveals another part of this messed up puzzle.
Yeah.
And at the heart of it all is Aileen, this young woman whose life was taken way too soon.
And it's important for us to remember that even with all the forensic evidence and theories, this is about a real person.
Yeah.
Aileen was a daughter, a friend, someone who had dreams in a future.
And now her family and friends are dealing with the pain of losing her and all these unanswered questions.
It's heartbreaking.
What happened to Aileen? Who's responsible? And why?
Those are the questions that drive cold case investigations
Mm-hmm.
that need to find justice and bring closure to those left behind.
And in a case like this where we know so little, every detail, every lead, every single piece of evidence could be the key to cracking it open. So what can we take away from all this after diving deep into the mystery of Room 15? We've looked at the evidence, the theories, the whole complicated mess of it all. But we're still left feeling unsettled and hoping for some kind of resolution.
I think the biggest lesson here is that even when we're not sure about things,
Mm.
searching for the truth is important.
Yeah.
Questioning things, looking for answers, not letting a case be forgotten that shows how strong the human spirit can be.
And even though the mystery of Room 15 might stay unsolved for now, there's still hope that justice will be served and the truth will come out.
I hope so.
It's a scary reminder that bad things can happen anywhere, even in places that seem peaceful and safe. Those places can still have secrets and tragedies hidden within them, and we're left wondering what would it take to finally solve this case and give peace to those who are still mourning Aileen.
Yeah.
Maybe the answer isn't some big shocking reveal, but a tiny detail, something someone remembers, a piece of evidence looked at in a new way we might never know for sure. But the hope for justice, for understanding, for closure, it's still there.